We've just shipped a new feature for Kubernetes and we want to talk about it. So today we have Mark, who is our senior software engineer and also the team lead for this deliverable, and I'm Kate, a product manager. And we'll walk you through what are external feed triggers, why we build them, how you might use them, and most importantly, we'll show you how they actually work and talk about a little of technicalities behind the scenes. So let's jump straight into this. Why external feed triggers? Well, nowadays in Octopus, if you want to deploy something to Kubernetes or to any other targets, in most cases, you need to push the release forward. That means you either need to go into the interface and push the release button or deploy button, or you need to configure this in some other way. Let's say from your CI tool, or send an API call or something else. So basically, you initiate the release and therefore later deployment. Sometimes it works amazingly well, but there are some cases and you maybe want to do it the other way. So maybe you want to pull mode. An example of this would be, well, what if you release software very often and you just don't want to have this extra step in your CI to do release creation? You just want the process smooth. Basically, you want to just have it one less thing to worry about. Maybe it's another thing. Maybe you deploy third-party apps. Let's say you deploy some Helm charts like Grafana or Prometheus, and you don't really control when they put a new version, but you still want to be aware of that. And every time there is something to update, you want to spot it and decide if you want to roll it out or not. Maybe you template configurations for Kubernetes. Let's say you have one set of customization files or Helm chart which you use for multiple microservices. And then you just replace a container image in your manifest. In this case, maybe you have all these files stored in one place, and then triggering deployment would be the case of just updating the artifact. So for these use cases, and for many other use cases, we build this new feature which allows you to create releases automatically in Octopus as soon as Octopus spot the new Helm chart version or the new container image version. So it does exactly this. As soon as you configure the trigger, Octopus will keep looking at the sources for container images, the registry, and Helm charts, and when we spot the new version, it will create release. Moreover, based on the rules you set, it will choose the right deployment channel. So you can define what would happen after release is created. Mark talked about this a bit more. Using the life cycles and the channels, you can actually automate your deployments. So it's not just about release creation. You can go further and say, okay, I want to create release and deploy it, let's say, in this example, to deployment and test environment straight away. And then I will think about production. Maybe I'll do it manually or after some extra checks. That's in a nutshell. Let's see how it actually works.
Thank you very much, Kit. So what I have here is I've set up a really simple deployment process. I'll just walk you through what's in that. So this is our deploy Kubernetes YAML step. I have my YAML here. And so what I've done here is I've got two container images that I want to trigger from one of them. I have primary image and a sidecar image. So this YAML I just took from the Kubernetes website. It's just an example one. It's quite simple. So what I want to do is trigger based off my sidecar. So I have my two reference packages here. Our triggers support Helm charts and container images. So we'll be right with these ones here. So now I'll just go to our triggers page. We have improved our triggers selection here. So if you choose any of these, they'll show down here. We've renamed Arc to built-in package repository. So now I'll just go to our external feed trigger here. I'll add a quick trigger here, which will be trigger on new sidecar image. I'll skip the description for now. Now we have two channels here. We can have one trigger per channel. I'm going to stick with the default, but if you do want another trigger for a second channel, you can just create one of those. Now, when a trigger creates a release, it will use the versioning rules you might have set up for your particular channel, and it'll match the packages that it's looking for based off that, and will only trigger if they do align. We give you a little preview of the life cycle here. So I just have a very, very simple example one here. So it's important to note these triggers don't actually do deployments. They just create the release, because there's a bunch of, excuse me, a bunch of other ways in Octopus to do deployments automatically. So here I just have my life cycle set up so that when I have an appropriate release, it'll automatically deploy to development. But for staging and production, you need to manually do it. So now down here, one of the beauties of this is that Octopus already knows how to connect to your registries, your feeds, and so you don't have to configure anything here. So what we do is we look at your deployment process, find appropriate packages, and then list them here. So what I'm going to do is select the sidecar. You can choose multiple if you want, but I just want to trigger off the sidecar package. So I'll save that now. So now our trigger is set up. So what I'm going to do is have a look at our tasks. Now, these run every 3 minutes normally. I have changed this instance to run every 30 seconds, so you don't have to wait too long. Now, what we've done here is the trigger has run, and you can see here that it's found our trigger, it's enabled, but we didn't create any releases. Now, the reason for that is in here. So what it's done is it's checked the feed, and it hasn't found any updated packages. And that's because if we go to our releases here, we already have a release that had the latest version. That was actually triggered by an earlier trigger that I was playing around with. So what I can do now is I'm just going to move across to my terminal. And I just have a new image that I'm going to push here. So this is just a new version that hasn't been released yet. So if I push that up to Docker Hub, hopefully it won't take too long. There we go. So now what we can do is I'll go back to the tasks and go include system tasks. Oh, okay. So what we've had here, we've actually pushed the new version out. So I'll go in here. So again, we have this summary here, and we can see that we have actually created a release. So if we go to that release here, we can see that it was created by the trigger that we just set up, and it found a new version of that package. So I have got it set up to automatically deploy using the life cycle phase. So this has deployed successfully. And if we go back to our trigger here, we can see here the last release that was created, and it shows some information about the last time the trigger ran. Now, the reason it says no release created here was because this is running every 30 seconds. And so it's actually run again since it created this release. And obviously, because we just released this package, there's no reason for it to create another release. So that covers using it. So I'm just going to explain how this works. I did cover it a bit already, but it's worth going into a bit more detail and cover it again. So the package feeds that we support are Helm charts and contain images. And there's a bunch of different registries that you can use, and just anything, basically anything that Octopus already supports for Helm charts and contain images, you can use here. As I mentioned, we simply pull the feed configuration from your steps, so there's nothing extra that you need to set up with your triggers. And you can use variables for your feeds and packages if that's something that you need. Yes, so the triggers run every 3 minutes. When it does create a release, it will only create a release in the channel that that trigger is linked to, and it will use as I mentioned before, the channel rules for selecting that. And when it actually creates the release, it'll version based off how you set up your project, which might be, Octopus's internal numbers or your container or Helm chart tag or version. However you set it up, this will use it. Um, Deployments won't kick off automatically unless you've set that up separately, but the triggers itself won't start that. As I mentioned just a second ago, one trigger per channel. If you want, you can have, and if you need multiple triggers, it just has to be one for each of those channels that you have, and it follows those channel rules that you specify there.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks a lot. So now, how can you try the trigger? We've just released this in Octopus Cloud. So if you're an Octopus Cloud customer, you can just start using this. It should be available in all your projects. You need to open the project and manually configure this, and then you can enjoy the trigger. And the on-prem customers will get it with the next on-prem release. We're really, really looking forward to your feedback. This is a new feature. We just released this, and we want to know if it's useful for you, if it's working, or maybe you found some other use cases which you'd like us to cover. Please follow the QR code. It gives you the link to the survey, and you can share your feedback with us there, or at the end of it, you can even book a short interview with us to go more in depth into your experience. We would really, really appreciate that because it helps us to build better products, after all. And that's it for today. Thank you for learning more about the new feature.